Good evening, Michigan. Chief Meteorologist Joel Fritzma here, alongside Drew, who I will unmute. Welcome into this Friday night briefing. Hopefully everyone's having a pleasant evening out there. Some ideal weather for your Friday evening activities, unless of course you're in the UP. Again, thank you for coming in tonight, watching this briefing with us. Make sure you hit that like button if you're just joining us tonight. Hit that follow button and the subscribe button as well, depending on what platform you're watching on. We're closing in on 60K subs here on YouTube, so if you want to come over to YouTube and hit that sub button, we'd appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and start by actually not only looking at the radar, but just looking at the satellite across the region right now. Temperatures out there tonight in the mid-70s, some places in the upper 70s. Otherwise, a really nice night. Dew points out there in the mid-50s as well. Unless you're down by the border, dew points are going to be closer to 60 there, so a little bit more muggy. But overall, again, a very nice night, very clear skies, and a good sunset on tap tonight for most locations in the lower peninsula. Unfortunately, if they're up there in the upper peninsula, it's going to be a rainy one out there tonight. But otherwise, again, a nice night out there. Unfortunately, not a precursor of what's to come for tomorrow, and we'll get into that right now. So again, the main story right now is severe weather tomorrow associated with some sort of like MCS, which is a mesoscale convective system. Basically, it's like these tiny little low pressure systems that roll on the ridge. Again, we're getting into sort of a ridging pattern here starting this upcoming week, and it's kind of a precursor to it. And so we'll have all these storms that kind of just ride over the same area over and over again. And again, it's riding the ridge, so there's this bubble of heat and humidity that's just sitting down to our south. And as a result, all these storms are going up and over that heat dome, I guess you could say. And again, they ride the same path, and we just so happen to be in that path. So not only are we looking for severe weather tomorrow, we're watching out for middle to the end of next week as well, as we start to get in a hotter and more stormier pattern to end next week. So we'll talk about that obviously maybe first thing Monday. First and foremost, so we got to get through tomorrow, and we will start by going through the handy dandy HRRR model run. So this is your base reflectivity projected over the coming hours, both tonight and into tomorrow. We start here at 8 o'clock tonight, so this is an hour from now. Again, current time is 7:05, bottom of your screen. We fast forward it through about midnight, showers kind of riding along northern UP along Lake Superior, and then those start to fill in overnight. We get to about 8 a.m. in the morning. We could see some thunderstorms pop in. We don't expect these to be too severe, but we'll be up watching these just in case. And then that complex starts to move over towards the lower peninsula here at, this is noon. So you can see Menominee County kind of in that run right there. Then we move into 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And we have, what happens here is this complex is splitting into two off the latest HRRR run. Now, not all HRRR runs have been the same over the last 24 hours. I know Drew's been seeing this behind the scenes, so have I. They used to have one massive squall line come through, and that has now been reduced to this little cell down here in southwest Michigan. So a lot of changing still going on, and we'll see that in some of these other projected model runs as well. But this is 2 o'clock tomorrow projected. Then we move into 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and that complex starts to really pick up down there in southern Michigan. It might be just south of the border though. 5 o'clock, we are watching some cells form across central and northern Michigan. Now, exact placement may not be right there across Houghton Lake area down towards Oscoda, but these cells up here would be, let me zoom in here. There we go. These cells here that are just north of Clare, around the West Branch area, those could be shifted a little bit further south, but these cells we'll have to watch because that is going to be on what's called the warm front, and that warm front is usually more volatile than the cold front will be, which is where these storms are forming down here in Indiana and Michigan. So people that are watching in West Michigan right now are like, hey, where's our rain going to be? Unfortunately, on the HRRR run, you guys might not get a whole lot of rain, so here we go again with another swing and miss event potentially. Now, obviously, more models will come in later tonight, starting tomorrow morning as well. But those cells continue over towards Port Austin, Huron County, Tri-Cities region, and eventually into the southern portions of the thumb, and that will be 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 10 o'clock tomorrow. So, again, this is just one model run. Again, this is just the HRRR. If we go over to the RRFS, this was what was taking us by storm earlier today. This has it a little bit different. This has it more, I think, pronounced across Michigan, and it does. So this has this still as one big line. You can see here across portions of West Michigan, that line fills in and really brings a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity to the state. You also have a couple isolated cells up here in the Elma, Saginaw, Midland region that could be supercellular in nature. That means a low-end all-hazard threat. And those cells, again, this will be 21Z, so that's about 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and then by midnight, pretty much all the rain's out of the state. A couple residual showers there on the RRFS. So you can see right now, we mentioned this in our post earlier this afternoon, is these models just do not like each other right now. They don't want to agree whatsoever. So we have one model that has this entire line filled in, and one model that, splits right around West Michigan. Now, knowing our past so far over the last couple of weeks, West Michigan's like, oh yeah, the HRRR is definitely coming to fruition. We've been missed out pretty much every single time. Might as well keep the theme going. But again, not all the models are showing that, so we have to kind of keep that in the back of our minds here that, again, West Michigan is still in the threat for tomorrow, despite what one model does say. We can also switch over to the FV3. I think the FV3 really just kind of has the same thing where it's more of just a big cluster, and it really is. It's not really that big of a line, but this would be as early as 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, so a little bit earlier in the day. That's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, and then again done by around 10 or 11. So it's a little bit earlier on the FV3 model run, and you can see that's more of just a cluster of cells, which could be something to watch. But again, all of these models right now are not agreeing in terms of what type of storm mode they want and where the dry air is going to filter in. Speaking of dry air, we can take a look at our projected dew points for tomorrow. We'll go ahead actually first and look at the projected precipitation off the Euro, because rainfall is important. I know a lot of you guys are begging for it. We'll go ahead and fast forward it through. This is going to be 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, so in the UP, around half to a full inch of rain possible up there with that MCS if that does continue more north. High rainfall amounts along that warm front as it crosses from Ludington over to Oscoda, Houghton Lake region. Again, it could be a narrow band of about an inch and a half of rain there. West Michigan could see some rain, but again, between a quarter and a half inch of rain here off the Euro, not a whole lot to reverse the effects of the drought that's ongoing. So keep that in mind. And then there's kind of a rain hole on the east side of the state right now, which matches up with the HRRR run primarily, given that that line is projected to split on the HRRR. And again, that would be no rain for the east side of the state. But again, east side of the state is well saturated right now, so if you guys do miss out in this event, it's not the end of the world. You've had very copious amounts of rain over the last couple of weeks. But again, it would be a swing and a miss for the severe weather. So you can see the rainfall totals pretty much across the state, pretty barren unless you're along that warm front up there in north central Michigan, that US 10 corridor and points north. Otherwise, again, a gradual quarter to a half inch of rain. Not a whole lot tomorrow, but again, this is just one model run. There's other model runs that have a lot more moisture along the cold front in Indiana, and there is a slight risk for excessive rainfall down there for tomorrow. And again, a slight risk for excessive rainfall means there's a 15% chance of flash flooding. The rest of the lower peninsula of Michigan is a marginal risk, so it's only about a 5% chance of flash flooding tomorrow. But again, because we have so much moisture in the area, we can't rule out these thunderstorms producing a lot of rain over a short amount of time. So keep that in mind. We'll now go and check out our moisture for tomorrow. In order to do that, we have to switch over to our dew points. And you can see here on the Euro run, we'll take the Euro run for an example here. Dew points will be, by 2 o'clock tomorrow, very close to 70 degrees. And then by the time we get to about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, southwest Michigan dew points into the low 70s. You have 71, 72, 73 down there by Niles. And those dew points do spread across southern Michigan. They get up towards 70 over to the east side of the state. If you're up more close to the warm front, we'll have to watch that because we have what's called moisture pooling. If there's enough warm air advection, enough stronger winds pulling in that moisture from the south, we could see a gradual thin strip of dew points that are like 70 to 75 degrees right along that warm front. And that does help boost the chances for severe weather tomorrow, makes those supercells become a little bit stronger if those do form. So it's very interesting how weather works here. That warm front does like to do a lot of crazy things, and moisture pooling along that front is something we'll have to watch out for. Other than that, we'll go ahead and check out our SBC outlook first and foremost. Again, for those who remember, yesterday morning we woke up and there was only a marginal risk in like southwest Michigan, and since that happened overnight last night, they added this entire big slight risk zone. So it went from general thunderstorms to slight risk in one update. And that does include all of southern Michigan, all of central Michigan, and a marginal risk pretty much north of US 10 up there where that warm front's going to be. And once you're north of that warm front, severe weather is not likely. You'll still get thunderstorms perhaps, but those will not be severe. So if you're Roscommon, Cadillac, and points north, chances are severe weather is not likely tomorrow. You could see a strong storm, but not likely for severe. And the reason for this being a slight risk is for damaging winds. Again, all you need is one hazard out of the three to validate a slight risk. So you can have for example, we have tomorrow, we do have a hail risk and a tornado risk as well. But you can see those are not like slight risk equivalent. All you need is one hazard to kind of get that a slight risk, and it's the same on our maps, which I'll show you here right now. So it kind of lines up kind of similar to the SBC. Again, that level 3 zone kind of bows out and away from West Michigan just a little bit, but it does include Grand Rapids. Everywhere you see in yellow there is a level 3 out of 6 on our in-house forecast package. Peak severe weather timing tomorrow, again, we have labeled here on the screens around 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Going hazard by hazard, the reason why it is level 3, again, is because it is damaging winds as the main threat. The percentage up there at the top of the screen, actually I'm going to take off the bottom bar so you guys can see everything before I forget. There you go. And full screen. Now you guys can see it. So it goes all the way down to the state line. That is a 15 to 24% chance that if you do get a storm, it may produce damaging winds. So if you think about it the other way, it's a 75 to 85% chance that you don't. And as of lately, a lot of places have been on that 75 to 85% grind where it doesn't happen. So again, take it with a grain of salt, but again, the odds are the highest in that level 3 zone. For hail, there's also a level 3 zone across much of southern and southeast Michigan. It's different from the SBC. They have a little bit of a lower hail threat, but again, if we do have supercells tomorrow, which is possible in some of these model runs, those supercells are capable of producing all hazards, and supercells are most likely to produce that hail risk versus, a line of storms, the squall lines that come through and bring those damaging winds. Those usually don't bring hail a whole lot, but because some of these models are showing some supercells, we can't rule it out, and that's why we are maintaining a level 3 risk here for hail as well. There is no level 3 risk for tornadoes, but there is a tiny region of a level 2 tornado risk across the thumb. Reason is, again, those supercells right along that warm front may be the strongest of the day. Again, at the Boeing line that would be down in southwest Michigan, mainly a wind threat. When you get those supercells along the warm front, funny things can happen. And in the thumb region, there's a lot of different microclimate features ongoing, so much so that our surface vorticity is also enhanced in that area. So that does kind of aid in the general spin, even on days when the spin might not be there. It's kind of like an extra oomph to get that spin going because of the topography in the region out there. So again, level 2 risk we put up here for the thumb, portions of northern Sand Lake and Tuscola counties up over towards the Tri-Cities region as well. And then we just have a broad level 1 range for the rest of pretty much all of southern Michigan, which again, level 1 is a 1 to 3% chance that your storm would produce a tornado, and a level 2 is a 3 to 5. So overall, generally low, but again, it's non-zero chance. The main threat tomorrow will be hail and damaging winds. We'll also go through some of the ingredients that we're watching out there. We look for slim, shear lift, instability, moisture when it comes to severe weather. We just went through moisture here. Again, dew points are going to be in the 70s, so we can cross that off. A lot of moisture out there tomorrow for M. However, again, there could be a little bit of dry air swooping in on the backside of that cold front that could cause that line to break up, as you saw in the HRRR run. So that means West Michigan might not get that rain tomorrow. We'll have to keep an eye on it. But again, overall the dews will be pretty high. So that's your M. Instability-wise, I'm going to have to go to... We'll go to the NAM 3. I think they have a usually good handle on the Cape. For some reason, the HRRR likes to underdo the Cape a lot. Again, that's our instability values. But you can see tomorrow, it's not a whole lot there. A lot of it's going to probably be in the mixed layer. This is surface-based Cape. A lot of it's going to be mixed layer Cape tomorrow. But overall, we do have enough. Again, the values are over 1,000 in many spots there on your screen, especially along the cold front. And then up there in the warm front, where that moisture is pooling, there is a nice zone of 1,000 to about 1,300, 1,400. Again, across central Michigan, Mount Pleasant, over towards Tri-Cities in the thumb. And that will continue off to the southeast throughout the afternoon before eventually fading out by the evening hours. And I think the NAM 3K is a little bit behind here. But nonetheless, again, the moisture or the instability will be there. So we can check off the instability, we can check off the moisture. Those are there. And again, we have a warm front in the area and a cold front along with a low pressure system that is tied to. So you can check off the lift. It's your forcing mechanism to get these storms up and going. And then we have our shear values, which we use the 0 to 1 and 0 to 3, which we're going to have to zoom in here so you guys can see Michigan better. Kind of pinpoint the state out a little bit better here. So again, this is our S, our storm relative helicity. And for values on 0 to 1, we look for anything higher than 100, maybe 125. And we do have a lot of that pooling along that warm front again, so that does line up well with where we believe that level 2 threat for tornadoes would be tomorrow. But again, there is a little bit also pooled up along that cold front down there, and that would be more for a QLCS type spin up tornado, which again is like an embedded tornado within the line of damaging winds. We've had that many times in Michigan. In fact, like multiple times this year in Michigan. Pretty much every single one of our tornadoes, honestly, Drew, this year has been kind of semi QLCS in nature. So we would have to look out for that across southwestern Michigan again tomorrow. The hazard is 1 to 3% chance that tornado happens, so it's fairly low, but it is not zero. 0 to 3, which is instead of the first kilometer of shear, it's the first 3 kilometers of shear. We can kind of use that as an extra layer there, and you can see that does pool up. Those values are well over 200 across central Michigan, and that 0 to 3 also stretches down into southwest Michigan as well throughout the day. So we could have, again, both a QLCS threat tomorrow for tornadoes and supercellular tornadoes along that warm front up there in central Michigan. So it could be a 2-part day in 2 different locations that we'll be watching out for, unless that line is, ultimately filled in. Again, we also have that triple point, which is where the warm front and the cold front come together. We could see magic on that, and that would be where the cold front again meets the warm front, and that would track probably right across the US 10 corridor. So as that moves from west to east, that could enhance a little bit of lift as well. So overall, damaging wind risk and hail risk are the main factors tomorrow, but a tornado risk cannot be ruled out. It's an all-hazard day. And again, a lot of moisture out there tomorrow, so there is a marginal risk of flash flooding and a slight risk of flash flooding if you are along the Michigan-Indiana state line and points south. If that does come to fruition and that MCS really starts to show a big line moving from Illinois through southern Michigan and northern Indiana. So all in all, there's a lot of moving parts out there. Drew, if there's anything you want to add on right now, feel free to do so. There's a lot I probably said that might not have made sense, or if you want to clear up, now's the time to do that.
Yeah, no, I think you did a pretty good job, Joel. As you guys have been aware, Joel was talking for about 19 minutes. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot that has to go into this forecast.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, there's a lot that has to go into this forecast. So in terms of how the storms will play out, the uncertainty with the models, where the storms will be, what's the storm mode, all that good stuff. So that's why there's just a lot to talk about. We're kind of, we're less than a day away from this happening. So there's a lot that kind of has to go into it. I will mention that tonight going into tomorrow, we're going to be looking off to the west. There's a slight risk for severe weather in portions of South Dakota, Iowa, and Minnesota. Those storms out to the west will be the ones that we're going to be on the lookout for, because that's going to dictate on how our threat for severe weather will play out for tomorrow. So the models, especially like the HRRR, as Joel was kind of mentioning, have a hard time kind of playing out on how an MCS will develop and how it will basically interact with the environment ahead of it. Will it fall apart? Will it strengthen? Parts of me want to say it'll probably weaken, just because instability is just going to continue to weaken as the day goes along. But sometimes during the summer, when you have those warmer dew points, sometimes it'll last a little bit longer than expected. So there's a lot that's going into this forecast, as Joel mentioned, and really it's going to come down to us just staring at these storms as they move off to the west. We'll be keeping an eye on them tonight, but then we'll probably get our fair share of sleep and then wake up early tomorrow morning and see where the storms are at, and then compare it to the models and see if they got them right or not. And regardless, basically right away when we wake up tomorrow morning, we'll be looking at mesoanalysis. Once again, that's for those that don't know what that is current data, or an average of current data, basically surface cape, shear, you name it, all the ingredients that we need to see for severe weather are available via that website. And then we look at that to figure out what those storms will do as they move off to Michigan and Indiana. I will say one more thing I'll say too. Generally speaking, there's just a little bit more confidence in storms or rain further south in states like Indiana. Whether or not they have a line of storms or more discrete storms in nature, both the HRRR and RFS kind of showed that, where let's just say that line segment kind of falls apart and we have some more discrete supercells potentially. States like Indiana also get some discrete supercells as well too. But what's going to be interesting going into tomorrow is if that line falls apart. Once again, I say if. We're not fully sure if it's going to, but if it does, we do have the better wind shear compared to Indiana in terms of maybe that occasional spin up tornado potentially. So we'll see how this plays out. Once again, SBC has similar wording to what we've been discussing about. There's a lot of uncertainty in how this line will kind of progress as it moves into the Great Lakes region.
Well, there's no timing map out yet because there is so much uncertainty. Again, you could basically think about how many models there are out there. We pick out the best models that are usually the most reliable and compare them for you guys. But if you think about it, you put 12 different models in a room. They're basically all fist fighting right now, saying, "Hey, my model's going to win. No, this model's going to win." And they're basically doing like a battle royale right now in terms of which model's going to come out and show you where the storms are exactly going to be. So unfortunately, we don't have a timing map for you, but we are going to use the RFS to kind of walk you through hour by hour once again here, because it does show a filled in line, and we're kind of forecasting for this line to be filled in just because the entire southern and central portions of the Lower Peninsula are in the risk tomorrow. So we're kind of using this model as a rough go. As you can see, these storms really start to move in at around 2 o'clock tomorrow. This is 2 p.m., 3 p.m. starting to move into West Michigan. 4 o'clock really starts to pop in. We also have maybe some prefrontals that pop up. Those would, if those are isolated in nature enough, those could be something worth watching. Then isolated cells with nothing else around it can pull and clean inflow, cause that storm to become supercellular, start rotating really quickly, and put down an all hazards threat. So those isolated cells, you can see that kind of sticks around as it moves through Gratiot County. Now again, this is not exactly where it's going to be. It's just a measure of intensity, but we could see these prefrontal cells. So this is 5 o'clock. Also pushing through West Michigan. The RFS also is very rain heavy right now, so this could also, if this does come true, again, this would be a bullseye for West Michigan in terms of rainfall. You can see multiple hours here between 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. You had maybe 4 or 5 hours here of just rain across West Michigan, whether or not that is severe. And that whole batch of rain eventually moves over to the east side of the state. This is going to be about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and then by midnight, again, it moves out. So it's really off the RRFS here from 2 to about 11 at night. So it's a little bit later than the time frame we gave you guys of 11 to 7. But again, it could start as early as 11 if one of the other model runs wins that fist fight, the battle royale, and decides, hey, we're going to start earlier, let's get going. So keep that in mind, really anytime after 11 tomorrow. But if we're going off the RFS, really anytime after 2, working from west to east across the state. So it'll be later in the day if you're over on the east side of the state for severe weather. Got Cindy in here becoming a member for month number 13 on our YouTube channel. EF3 level member. Thank you very much, Cindy, saying thank you for all you guys do. No problem. Cindy's one of our longtime supporters here, and we appreciate their support very much.
For those wondering why why we have better shear, that's mainly just because, like Joel mentioned earlier on when he was talking about the triple point, our low pressure is going to be in Michigan, roughly speaking. Granted, there could be a few shifts, but there's been a lot of confidence, at least from the models, in terms of the rough placement of the low pressure. So we have a warm front that's draped along portions of northern lower Michigan, and then a cold front behind that. So that's where your most shear is going to be present, whether it's directional shear and speed shear. The main question is how much instability actually gets up here. If we have a line of storms that forms in Iowa and then moves to the southeast, and let's just say it hits states like Illinois and Indiana, that cuts off our instability. It's going to push it down south. And if that happens, then what we're really going to see is basically nothing, or maybe some scattered elevated thunderstorms during the afternoon. And we wouldn't have that surface instability present unless we would have a huge resurgence. But based on the flow that's present, that seems pretty unlikely given on how it was. And we did have some model runs that were suggesting that, where that line would stay together and we continue to move off to the southeast. But general wording from the SBC has been suggesting that line could perhaps fall apart, which if you have a disorganized line that falls apart, that doesn't really push the Cape south. And if that happens, and if we don't have a big, scary, severe line, like a windbag line that moves through, then that allows our Cape to go further north into our state. And if we would get a line too, I would say areas in southern Michigan, southwest Michigan especially, maybe even west Michigan, could see a line. And that'd be roughly late morning, roughly speaking, time frame. and once again, wind would be the main threat. And that's another reason too why the SBC has a slight risk. I think I saw a comment or two in here saying, will they put a 5% TOR? I think they're for now, there's a lot of uncertainty. That's why they have that 2%. It's very broad. It goes into parts of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and southern Michigan. So it's kind of like a wait and see kind of a thing. So I wouldn't be shocked if they would add it somewhere, but at the same time, there's a lot of just uncertainty in how things could play out. And regardless, there is still that 2% threat, basically a low all hazard threat with damaging winds being the main threat. So as always be weather prepared when it comes to any sort of severe weather.
Yeah, it is very common to have a cold front and a warm front in the state in the same day. It's happened multiple times this year. Again, a cold front and a warm front meet at the center of the low pressure system. So if a low pressure system usually moves through the state, there's always usually going to be a warm front and a cold front attached.
Sometimes in certain situations, you can also have an occluded front at the same time, but
Yep.
that's a little bit different. Not with this setup.
And current time right now is 7:28 p.m. We are live. If you're not watching at 7:28, chances are you're probably watching this taped. Again, this will be live after we are done here. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X right now, taking your questions. But again, general consensus right now is severe weather after 11 a.m. tomorrow. Supercells and linear mode are both possible depending on where you're at in the state. Or, in some cases, if too much dry air filters in, then you might not get anything. Cough, cough, West Michigan.
We need the rain here in West Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
especially west of US 131.
Yep. And on Thursday, yesterday, they added West Michigan, most of West Michigan, Ottawa County, Kent County, to a level 1 drought officially, upgraded from abnormally dry conditions. So it is officially labeled as a drought now, for those who are curious, in West Michigan. And drought also continues across central Michigan as well from earlier this year when they didn't have as much rain up there. They're starting to kind of dig into the deficit a little bit, but there's still a lot of ground left to make up. So maybe with this event tomorrow, the central Michigan portion of the drought will start to kind of decrease as well.
Another thing I want to mention too, now that kind of came up to my mind now, is based on how tricky this setup is going to be. This isn't going to be a setup where you want to go to once again your weather app. Your weather app is going to use a certain model run and is going to use that for their forecast, whether it's an hourly forecast or a day-by-day forecast. And this is a perfect example of where if you pull up your weather app, it might use a run, let's just say earlier this morning, where we had a squall line moving through West Michigan and then says 80% chance of rain and thunderstorms. Well, guess what? Now we had a newer run that showed no line and showed some discrete cells further up north. So weather apps are only going to take a model run and then just kind of throw it out at you with no explanation. Just, hey, there's a chance of rain and storms. But based on how tricky these setups can be on, like Joel mentioned, how humid are we going to be? Is there going to be instability? How will these storms develop in Iowa? There's so many factors that you can't just straight out play it. You just have to mention the possible outcomes on what could happen or what could not happen.
And there is a drought map, yes, on our page. We released it yesterday. You'd have to go back and scroll a ways, but it is on our Facebook page if you want to go back and check it out. See a comment about the tornado threat. If there's going to be an upgrade to 5, I think it would be anywhere, honestly, if the SBC was looking at the warm front, they would probably look in the exact same area that we have listed here for that 3 to 5% chance in the thumb. Again, this is our own in-house map. This is not a product of the Storm Prediction Center. The Storm Prediction Center's tornado risk is actually a way different than what we have projected. They have that more because I think when they made this map last night / today, they saw more of a supercellular threat across southern Michigan, and so that's why they have that 2% mainly in southern Michigan. But as of some recent model runs, and I was seeing this actually a couple days ago too, is that line, that warm front crossing the US 10 corridor. I'm like, you gotta watch that because that is going to do sneaky things. And we saw that last year too with, if you guys remember, the Lake George tornado, the Gladwin County tornado. Both of those tornadoes were on a sneaky warm front up there in northern Michigan. I don't even think there was that much of a tornado risk either. at that time. So that is why we have our tornado risk is way different than theirs. Again, across the thumb, because of all the ingredients that will come together, plus some topography things that are going on that enhance the surface vorticity in the region. That is why we have that level 2 risk there. They could upgrade it for the thumb if anything, but we'll see. Tonight at 2 a.m. is when they release their next outlook. So yeah, we are looking for sponsors, specifically for our camera network. If you guys want to sponsor a camera, we are putting up weather cameras all across the state. Again, by doing so, supporting operations here at MSC, plus you get your business on the weather camera when we use it live during our live streams, which are always every time there's severe weather in Michigan, no matter what county. If you're new here, welcome in. We, as here at Michigan Storm Chasers, have gone live for every single severe thunderstorm warning and tornado warning in the state of Michigan. We have not missed a beat since the beginning of 2024. That's really when we started doing full-time, doing this live stream no matter what, and we have not missed a warning since the start of 2024. So we're on a heater, I guess you could say, right now in terms of covering all these warnings. So feel free to follow along if you have not. If you're a Michigander, we do this all the time.
Any other questions, guys, in regards to how tomorrow could play out? For those that are wondering, if they're just joining in, Joel spent a good 15 to 20 minutes in the beginning of the video describing everything you need to know in regards to how tomorrow could shape up. So once again, once this live stream eventually ends here, it'll be posted via YouTube and Facebook and all the other platforms, I believe. And you can watch the first, I would say, 15 to 20 minutes, and that will be everything, in my opinion, that you would need to know.
Absolutely. And these maps are on our Facebook page as well as our X page, our Instagram page. You can follow us if you look up on any single social media platform you can think of. Our username on all of them is basically MI Storm Chasers. Easy as that. These posts are pretty much on all of them. So go ahead and check these out if you perhaps missed it, or if you missed it, taking a screenshot of this, you name it. It is there for your viewing pleasure.
Another thing I'll mention too is the model runs that we showed you guys tonight. We're expecting them to have slightly different runs going into tonight and potentially early tomorrow, because it's when the models are loading in every new hour that comes in, it's trying to take the current storms that are happening out west and they're trying to predict how they'll play out. So, Joel did a good job at mentioning this too, the different potential outcomes that could happen, whether it's a line that could be moving through early in the morning or maybe more discrete cells in nature. But just keep in mind, this is a fluid forecast and we could still see a few last second adjustments. And that also comes with the SPC forecast. Wouldn't be shocked if maybe they make some adjustments. I'm not the SPC, so I'm not going to tell you guys what they're going to do. They're the experts. They know. They've had the most experience in terms of how these setups play out, and they've done a really good job this year in these tricky situations in terms of how the setup could play out. And I guess for a reminder too, for those that are on here and probably remember this pretty well, we had a severe weather setup on Wednesday. Very tricky setup. There was a lot that was going into that forecast. And the reason why the things played out the way they played out was because that MCV that was forecasted to move into our state and maybe give us a somewhat decent severe chance in the west side of the state stalled over Wisconsin. It moved very slowly, which then caused multiple tornadoes to happen inside Wisconsin. And then that line that developed in Illinois and raced across got ahead of that better shear, which then eventually it was more of just like a pulse line, best way to describe it really. And it would just cause a lot of lightning and just took advantage of the Cape, but we just didn't really have that proper alignment in terms of all the ingredients we need. So that's why it kind of was a quote unquote bust setup where we just had more scattered rain showers and thunderstorms and maybe not as much severe weather as what we were originally anticipating potentially. So once again, tomorrow's going to be another tricky setup. We'll take it as it comes by. And as always, we'll have you guys covered if we go live tomorrow. We'll be explaining everything that's happening and let you guys know, as always, what to expect.
And we mentioned this again at the beginning of the stream, but what is happening here across Northern Plains is we're looking at an MCS out in South Dakota. We're also watching the Minnesota region as well, as you can see here, north of Minneapolis. It could be some sort of like a duo MCS, so two different types of systems here that would push towards Michigan, which would likely combine into one according to the RRFSA model run. But again, the HRRR was very different in terms of how it played out. You can see here it is only playing out as the southern MCS, and then you start to get some action a little bit further north across the northern Wisconsin, maybe even southern UP on that MCS. So that really has those two lines split apart and kind of go around with a little bit of development in southwest Michigan on the north side of that southernmost MCS. But again, the HRRR run is going for a split around southern Michigan or West Michigan right now, with supercells obviously possible up there along US 10. But anywhere in West Michigan, really going to miss out according to HRRR. But if you go back, like I said, to the RFS, it has these two MCS systems going apart and then coming back together and colliding essentially over West Michigan, bringing them the most rain, and then moving on over to the east side of the state. So you can see how these models are all in a fist fight with each other right now and want to say, hey, I want this to win, I want this to win. So we're going to have to see if there's going to be any sort of truce, I guess you could call it, between these models over the next 12 to 16 hours. By tomorrow morning, maybe they'll figure their stuff out. But yeah, it's making for a little bit of a tricky forecast. Again, when the models don't like to line up, this is what happens. So we just have to kind of roll with the punches and see what tomorrow morning brings. Yeah, no snow. that we can guarantee. No snow.
Yeah, no snow.
It did get down to 39. Actually, got down to 38 last night in Roscommon, Michigan, north of me here. And I'm in Mount Pleasant,
That's crazy.
so yeah, it was about 40 miles north of me.
Weren't we clear last night too?
Relatively. It did clear out, especially further north.
Yeah. Sometimes when you have clear skies, that's when you can have your temperatures really start to drop. I know North Dakota, I think, had temperatures or lows in like the 40s, I think, widespread. I don't know if that was more of a morning thing or if that was an afternoon thing, but that recent cold front that moved through was a little bit of a chilly one for summer speaking.
Even if, again, tomorrow ends up being a big bust for everybody, we are watching next week, as mentioned. We won't go into the specifics for it yet because, again, a lot can change over the next couple days. I mean, we're going to see a lot probably change over the next 24 hours for this system. But next week is trending hotter than average, which means temperatures into the 90s perhaps in some spots. And with dew points being oppressive next week in the mid to upper 70s in spots. That will cause the heat index to get to 100 and 105 in perhaps a couple locations in 1 or 2 days next week. I think specifically maybe Wednesday, Thursday, at least off the Euro right now. That's what we were seeing earlier this morning. There's a post on that on our Facebook page. So, yeah, it's going to get hot next week. And again, with that ridging pattern, again, that bubble is bringing all that hot air, all that moisture up from the south. And because there's that bubble in the central portions of the Mississippi River Valley region, all the storms have to go over that bubble. And when they do, they go through the northern plains and then come right back down over the bubble through the Great Lakes region. And that's why we have to look out next week, especially the latter half of next week, for a lot of storms to develop with how much heat we have out there, how much humidity we have out there, and the continuous lift that we have out there from that ridging pattern with the storms riding the ridge. So we'll have probably all hazards possible again next week at some points, probably Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But again, as of right now, we're just watching tomorrow with also an all hazards threat kind of starting out that semi-ridging pattern that'll really start to fill in as we get into the start of next week. So once again, the timing for tomorrow, at least off the RFS, which again is only one of these models. So take it with a grain of salt. There's a bunch of different models out here that have different things. This is just one that has it all filled in, so we're going to use it as a general timing. And so this is going to be 19Z, so this is going to be around 2 to 3 in the afternoon. Then we get to 4 and 5, that's in West Michigan. 6 o'clock, starting to move into the U.S., 127 quarter, 7 o'clock as well. 8 o'clock, the rain takes over most of the state. A couple strong storms perhaps still there, but the RFS really starts to turn it into a deluge of rain as we get towards the evening hours and sunset. This is 9 o'clock tomorrow, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and 12 o'clock. So maybe a lot of rain tomorrow if we can get lucky for West Michigan. But otherwise, again, severe weather timing is going to be primarily off the RFS from that 2 o'clock time frame on through about 10 o'clock at night. But our maps here, as of, again, released this morning at 8 o'clock for, well, in the morning hours. I made these in the morning hours, released first for Patreon, then released in the afternoon for everyone else. That is what we had for our timing, 11 to 7 on the screen. So that is that. As a reminder, our in-house forecast, same with the Storm Prediction Center forecast, you only need one hazard to be level 3, have a level 3 risk on it to validate a level 3 risk being issued. So you can have a level 3 in the general category here for just having one of the hazards. So tomorrow we have 2. So we have wind and hail validating the 3, but there's no level 3 tornado risk. But either way, 2 of the 3 hazards are level 3 for tomorrow, and as a result, the main severe weather outlook does have a level 3 over much of southern and central Michigan. So we've had a couple of those questions. Usually every severe weather event asks us, how does this map work and how does it fit in with all the other hazard maps? And that's basically it right there. Again, this is just the severe weather outlook is a combination of all 3 hazards combined, and all you need is one of those hazards to be level 3 for you to get a general level 3 risk. Wildfire smoke situation is pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have to worry about that.
Skies were very blue, I think, yesterday, by memories right.
Yes. A couple super chats to read off here on our YouTube channel. Again, if you send a super chat on YouTube, we will read it off. Appreciate those who have donated here this evening. Starting off with Cindy with a $9.99 super chat, saying, "Get some rest, LOL, just in case." Thank you, Cindy. We will definitely do our best to get some rest tonight. Hopefully, we won't have to be up too early if there's going to be surprise severe in the UP, but we do not expect it. So, thank you very much, Cindy, for your super chat and your suggestion, I guess you could say. Michael A. in here with a $10 super chat saying, "This has been a great stream with some spot-on and excellent analysis." Thank you, Michael. Appreciate your support as well. For those who don't know, again, I'm Chief Meteorologist Joel Fritzema, a graduate of CMU, the meteorology program there, and Drew down below me is at CMU currently as well for meteorology. So we do have a lot of meteorological background. All you know is we love the weather. We've loved it all our lives. So comes with the territory, and we appreciate your very nice comment there. We also have Julianne with a $10 super chat as well, saying, "Huge thank you to the MSC crew for all you do." No problem, Julianne, and thank you for your support of the channel. Hope to see you stick around here for more briefings in the future, and also having a good night out there.
For those that are wondering, we will have chasers out and about chasing tomorrow as well. They're right now, once again, the same boat that we're in, trying to figure out what play to go, whether it's more southern Michigan or the thumb. So they're making plans on figuring out where to go. So we will have a few chasers out and about, as always, for tomorrow.
Curious to see what the radar looks like right now again. I have not really checked out to the west, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So it looks like our stuff in South Dakota is a little bit further north. Maybe just a tad. Let's hope that doesn't sag south. But again, if it does sag south, that means West Michigan might miss out on rain. So it's kind of a trade-off. If you do want rain, don't want rain. You do want severe weather, you don't want severe weather. This really needs to kind of head towards La Crosse if you're going to get those thunderstorms and that rain that you really so desperately need for West Michigan. And then obviously we're going to be watching this region of Minnesota up here north of Minneapolis for additional development, and that would be what would form on the warm front and bring an all hazards threat for central Michigan later tomorrow. So a lot going on. Yes, we are planning on launching a weather balloon tomorrow. I think they're going to be launching it in southwest Michigan ahead of the cold front, which would be the line of damaging winds. But we'll see. That is the plan.
Usually we like to do weather balloon launches on days like today where it's a very complicated setup and a pretty widespread setup as well. And that does a lot of help, not just for ourselves, but our friends, our local meteorologist friends, as well as the National Weather Service as well. It's very, very valuable data, current time data that can be used for forecasting.
Yeah, our day's going good. Tonight's been a nice day out there. We do have a TikTok as well. Our TikTok username is MI Storm Chasers. A lot of our video content is there. As well as obviously we're here on YouTube as well. YouTube is our #1 place for all videos, past and present. So if you want to go back and watch a live stream from the past 3 years, feel free to come over here to YouTube and check out all of the past live streams. Our first biggest live stream due, if I recall, was probably I think Colon in 2023, and then it really took off once we did the Perry tornado coverage, and then obviously we had the Comstock Park, Weberville day, and then there's also I think 4 or 5 different tornadoes across southeast Michigan. That was August 24 of 2023. A lot of people here probably remember that night as well. And yeah, that was the night a lot of you guys probably watching found us here at MSC if you guys are here since the beginning. So again, we've been doing this for a while, and we continue to do that every single time there is severe weather, so make sure you're following along if you are a Michigander. The weather balloon will not show up on Flight Radar 24. There is a third-party source that does track weather balloons, though, and usually they pick up on it. I forgot what the source was. Yeah, highlights for tomorrow, as a recap, we'll do this one last recap here. Highlights for tomorrow are damaging winds. If it is a squall line, mainly in the southern part of the state, southwest Michigan, down there south of Holland. Again, if it does fill in, it could go all the way up towards Ludington, Cadillac here on your map. Anywhere in the level 1 and higher zone does have the chance to see severe weather tomorrow. Again, level 3 has the best odds. Now remember, nothing is a guarantee. Just because you are in a level 3 risk does not mean it's a 100% chance that something's going to happen at your place in your backyard. So keep that in mind. It's an area-wide average probabilities of around 15 to 24% chance of damaging winds and hail happening. So, and that is if you do get a storm. If you don't get a storm, the odds are always going to be 0%. So either way, again, the main hazards are going to be damaging winds and hail tomorrow. We also have a very low-end tornado threat if we do have some cells that form out ahead of this line or along the warm front. Again, when you get those discrete supercells, those usually carry stronger hail and a stronger tornado threat just because they have all of this nice clean air out in front of it, pulls in a lot of inflow, and allows that storm to start rotating.
Yeah, discrete cells and generally can better take advantage of the environment, especially if they're isolated in nature, can better take advantage of the environment, especially if there's any tornado threat that enhances it. Usually, if it's a line, tornado threat's lower. It's not impossible, though. We've had, as we've learned in Michigan, we've had all kinds of tornadoes along a line, QLCS line. We have that in March 30 this year and in May 15 this year.
Yep. And again, peak timing tomorrow is really going to be anytime after 11 o'clock. Most models here are picking up really around 2 to 3 at the earliest. But again, when we saw the models earlier this morning, it was as early as 11 o'clock. So keep that in mind. Could be as early as 11. Really starts to take off towards the mid-afternoon hours. And again, it really should be done by sunset. So around 10 o'clock, maybe 9 o'clock, even earlier. So thankfully, not an overnight risk tomorrow night. So good news there. It'll be mainly in the daylight hours. So everyone should be up and awake and able to watch it roll in across the state. Unless, of course, you work third shift and you'll be sleeping all day, but that's okay. As long as you have a way to receive warning. Again, ways you can receive warning: Midland Weather Radios, WR120 is the version. You can also download some weather apps for free, or weather alert apps, I should say, such as Emergency by the Red Cross. You can also download the FEMA app. Both of those have free alerts to send on your phone. There's a couple other free apps out there you can also get for severe weather apps or severe weather alerts, but I'm not 100% sure on them all. There's the buddy system. Obviously, if you aren't that enthralled with the weather like some of us are, you can turn to a friend or family that might watch us more often than you might hear, and let you know, hey, there's a storm heading for you. MSC says you should probably be taking shelter. And then, as always, obviously, we're live here. Usually the local news is also live, so just having a way to watch some sort of severe weather coverage, because a human human aspect of severe weather forecasting is needed for tracking on these days. Again, weather apps, when it comes to severe weather, is very, very, very unreliable. And again, obviously they don't track, like weather apps don't track live severe weather as it comes across the state. So tuning in on your local news, tuning into us, that way you always know where the severe weather is happening, because again, we're live 24/7, 365 days when needed for severe weather coverage. So you have us, you have weather apps, Midland Weather Radios, the Buddy system, all good ways to receive warning during a severe weather event. And as always, sirens should be your last mode to receive warning, given that they only sound for people that are outdoors. They're called outdoor warning sirens for a reason, so you're only meant to hear them outdoors. If you are close enough to hear them indoors, it's a bonus. But just remember, they're pretty unreliable. They're very, I don't know what the word is, Drew, but they're very like different in terms of where they're sounded and for what criteria across the state. So that's why we always say, have multiple ways before a tornado siren or outdoor warning siren is issued to receive your alert.
Yeah, not every town too is going to have a tornado siren too. There's a good chunk that do across the state, but once again, not every single location is going to have it. And once again, you could have very heavy winds that could drain out the tornado siren. There's a lot of things that you can mention that where if you only rely on that could become a really big problem in terms of if it's a tornado threat or a significant damaging wind threat.
Mm-hmm. Got one of our mods in here, Rise Against, with a $4.99 super chat saying thanks for the great stream. He is also maybe at my apartment right now, behind the scenes. I think he's watching downstairs, or he is watching downstairs right now. So shout out to my good friend there, and also for supporting the stream and always being a mod here at MSC. And of course, always shout out to all of our mods that are helping out tonight with the live severe weather briefing, as well as during our live severe weather coverage, because it can get hectic in here. In the past, we've had 40,000 concurrent viewers at one time, and the chat's just flying across. And so the mods putting up with everyone, it does get tricky at times, but we do appreciate them very much for the continued support of operations here at MSC. But again, if you missed everything, if you're just tuning in, we pretty much went everything. Like I said, I didn't realize I talked for 19 minutes, but I did at the beginning of the stream. And so if you want to go back and check that out, feel free to do so. Again, you can always watch this back and replay. And I went over everything pretty much in good detail at the beginning, so feel free to do that. We're going to go into our sponsors now as well as we wrap up the live briefing for tonight. Starting off with StormGuard Roofing and Construction, based out of North Metro Detroit. Got Lifestyle Exteriors, based out of Central Michigan, from Lansing to Traverse City region. Katz Roofing and Siding, based out of Lansing, Potterville, so Eaton County. We also have South Haven. Pro Powder is where that business is located for all your powder coating needs. Mike Hayes Roofing and Siding, based out of Sanilac and St. Clair counties. Got McKay Tree Specialists, based out of Southeast Michigan. And based out of West Michigan, Kuiper Tree Care. For all your barn dominium needs across the Lower Peninsula, tune to FBI. On Top Roofing, based out of Livingston County. Schneider Commercial Building Solutions, based out of Lansing. Shield Public Adjusters, for all of your insurance adjustment needs, also based out of Lansing. Top Gun Roofing and Exteriors, based out of West Michigan. Our premier sponsor of the day, A-Class Construction and Restoration, based out of Mason County. Rainbow Restoration, based out of Kent County as well. Our premier sponsor for two-way communications here at MSC, Rapid Radios. For all of your security camera needs, turn to Guardian Technologies. Also our sponsor of our Skynet cameras here and our big network of Skycams. And our newest sponsor, the Ronald McDonald House of Detroit. Feel free to donate to the Ronald McDonald House of Detroit to help families in need find the comfort they deserve in times of sickness. Those are all our sponsors here at MSC. We do appreciate them very much for supporting operations. Again, we can't do this without their support. Everything we do here is not free. It is not cheap. So we do appreciate them very much. And again, we wouldn't be here without them, and we wouldn't be here without you guys as well. So thank you guys for following, liking the page. It's all free, but it also helps boost the algorithm, bumps it out to more Michiganders across the state as well, so more Michiganders can get the severe weather coverage they need. We did just hit 450,000 followers on our Facebook page today, which is 4.5% of the state population. So it's kind of crazy to think about. But again, if you do follow us on Facebook, thank you guys so much for getting us to that milestone. And we're now under 50K away on Facebook from the 500,000 mark. So thank you guys very much on Facebook. We do have a big giveaway slated once we do get to 500,000. And here on YouTube, we are only about 40,000 subscribers away on YouTube from hitting 100,000. So big giveaways planned for both Facebook and YouTube for all of our followers on either platform. So make sure you're following us on both platforms. That way you can be a participant in our giveaways when we do hit those milestones. So again, thank you very much for your support. If you've been following for a while or for just following today, it all works the same. We appreciate you guys for tuning in and following no matter what. We have a $5 super chat from Julie saying, can we get a Justin appearance? Interesting. Sure, why not? Justin, get up here. It's probably going to take like 30 seconds because like I said, he's watching on YouTube right now, so it's about a 30-second delay. Now, if you're watching on YouTube and Facebook, as long as you're within 30 seconds, I'll turn the warning ticker back on so you guys can see the live time. It is now 7:59 p.m. here on this Friday evening, July 18th, 2025. Again, if you're watching within 30 seconds of the time on the bottom of the screen, chances are you're live. It's just a little bit of a delay. If you're not watching at the time on the bottom of your screen, then chances are you're not watching live. You should probably refresh. Is Justin gonna come upstairs? We'll see. Oh, I hear him coming. Again, if you missed it, feel free to go back and watch all the info that we had during the beginning of the stream. You can come in.
Okay.
Your wish has been granted by Julie because she sent in a super chat.
Where's Julie?
Camera's right here.
Oh my gosh. Hi, Julie. Hey.
This is our moderator, Justin, Rise Against 11, here on YouTube. So,
Julie, I'm going to eat a bunch of deep fried pickles tonight at B-Dubs, and I'll think of you when I'm doing it. So just know that.
There we go. Yeah, Julie's nickname is Michigan Pickle Chaser here on YouTube for those who aren't watching on YouTube right now. But there you go. But it is 8 o'clock. Again, thank you to our mods and our sponsors for supporting operations here at MSC, and all you guys as well for liking and subscribing tonight and following. Drew, is there anything else you want to chime in with here real quick before we hop off?
No, I think we covered everything in terms of how things will play out. Once again, we appreciate our mods and chasers and everyone that has supported us, as well as our sponsors. Couldn't do it with all of you guys. Once again, really appreciate the support. And hopefully tomorrow, if we go live, we will hit 60,000 subscribers here on YouTube.
Which means I would dance.
Yeah, that's the more important thing.
All right, well, again, as always, make sure you're following us here at MSC. We'll have more updates tomorrow on our page, post updates. And we'll be live tomorrow for severe weather coverage as it rolls in, or as the storms roll in. So we'll probably see you then. Otherwise, have a great rest of your night out there, everybody. We'll talk to you guys soon. Enjoy the nice weather out there. Stay dry, stay safe, and we'll catch you soon. Have a great night, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.